Buzz chatter it is at the end of day one of this test match in Brisbane at the Woolen Gabba. You know why they don't call it the Woolen Gabba. They only say Gabba because there's two O's, two L's, two B's. Only you don't know what order they're in. So at the end of day one, it could have been at the start of day one as well because we hardly saw any cricket. 13 overs, England. Why am I saying England? You know why? Because we are watching England, New Zealand most of the time. Australia versus India, 28 for no loss. I thought Khwaja looked good. McSweeney struggled a little bit. And while Bumrah looked as good as ever, very promising from Akashdeep. So that's all that happened today. The bad news for Cricket Australia is they have to refund the entire amount. If they'd got another 10 balls in, they don't have had to. But delighted that DK is back again with us. DK, of course, in his mansion with his specially crafted backdrop and all. Me in my little hotel room. Look at the backdrop I've got. Look at that. TK, it is so funky. You go into the bathroom, it's even funkier. It's more you than me.
Yeah, I don't know which hotel you're staying in, but there's this chain of hotels in UK that we always stay in, the Malmaison. It feels a lot like that sitting from here. Very
Yes.
funky, very, what do they call it? Surrealistic paintings.
Whatever it is, the rooms. And you know what? I've always wondered about the Mal Maison since you talked about it, because Mal in French means bad and Maison means house. So I wonder why you'd call a hotel that, but whatever. The reason we started off talking about all this is the forecast for today was up to 15 millimeters of rain. Up to.
Oh.
I think we got about 90 or 100. Forecast for the next couple of days is not great either. But let's talk about what happened today. DK, I want to ask you about two or three things up front. One is in India's decision to bowl first, and the second is the team configuration. So Washington Sundar one test, Ashwin one test, now Jadeja being picked. What did you think of that?
I have to say, Gambhir and Rohit have gone towards an option which provides more batting. I think the bowling, they've realized
Yes.
probably all three spinners haven't, or rather the two spinners that have played so far, haven't had that much of an impact. So they probably fear that, let's try and get the best batter out of the three. And look, this is what their thinking must be. And it doesn't sit well with me. I just feel when India has done well abroad, the one thing that you always have to give credit to Ravi Shastri and Virat Kohli in the limited success that they had while touring was they aimed for 20 wickets. What can we do as a unit to get 20 wickets? That was their constant question. And they always preferred playing 6-5 combination. Now, India is blessed to an extent with Nitish Reddy, who's giving us a few overs with the ball, at times picking up a wicket as well. And he's probably been the find of the series so far. And to get into that mindset where you want depth of batting, but you don't mind lack of bowling. But also the other point in terms of argument could be, what has Washington and Ashwin done with the ball that a Jadeja can't? That would be the only thing. I feel slightly the defensive option, but I understand where they're coming from.
I still think, Head gave the charge to Ashwin in the test match in Adelaide, but Ashwin produced the miss hit that was put down by Siraj.
Correct.
And who knows where the game could have gone on from there. But yes, they've gone in for, I think, the better sounding package in Jadeja. You'll get a little more batting. Maybe he'll bowl tight overs, whatever. I was happy to see Akashdeep back. I was impressed with Harshit Rana. The little I saw of him in the first test match, first innings, he had a game to forget. That happens with a lot of young players, but he had a game to forget in Adelaide. But we saw only a little bit of Akashdeep. We saw just 2.5 overs, DK. But I don't know about. I liked what I saw in those three overs and a bit.
He's been part of the test team for about 6-8 months now. And the one thing that stands out, I mean, probably almost close to 8-9 months now. The one thing that did stand out when he played was how early he was able to strike in the spell. Almost every time he came on, he picked a wicket. He opened the bowling a lot of the time. So he's got that wicket taking knack. And what he really did well was trouble left-handers from around the wicket. Now you got to understand, Bumrah is comfortable bowling around the wicket to left-handers. Can't say the same about Siraj. And that's where Akashdeep is very, very useful. And our nemesis for some time across formats has been one Mr. Travis Head. And if Akashdeep gets it right, there's a good chance that he will bowl well against a Travis Head. So I like what they've thought in terms of getting a Akashdeep in. Now, in this innings, obviously, again, I felt the bowlers started a little short, and the first rain break, they went back, recalibrated, and said maybe we need to definitely bowl a slightly fuller. And that's what they did. But Akashdeep from ball one, bowled slightly fuller, got the edge, didn't carry through. And I thought he's done well. Very little to go on, Akshay. I wouldn't get too excited or too caught up about it. I'm sure he's having his nerves, playing his first test outside of India, representing India. There must have been a lot going on, but put everything into consideration. And I think he showed some credibility there with what he could do with the ball. What I'm really looking forward to is when he gets a long spell, how he bowls to their best left-handers. That's going to be a challenge for him.
Well, an interesting point about coming back after the break. I was looking at some numbers. When India came back after the break, I think in 7 overs and a bit, they only conceded 9 runs. So when they came back after the break, it was little tighter. These are very small numbers. You can't read too much into them. But 28 runs, the two occasions Siraj pitched short, two occasions they got boundaries. But really, honestly, in these 28 runs, apart from just seeing the lengths that India bowled, I don't think you can draw too many conclusions. But we've had DK with us again. It's 1-1 decade after two games. When I looked at the itinerary, I've long felt that Australia have been very kind to India with itineraries on the last couple of series. Now I see first test in Perth, Optus, never lost there. Two, day-night game, Adelaide, never lost there. Three, Brisbane. 32 years they didn't lose. They've lost two after that, but it's still a ground for them. Finally, they created an itinerary for themselves that was perfectly suited to their game. That's why I don't think 1-1 is too bad. But I'm asking the questions. You have to give the answers.
I think India would be happy at the end of two tests being 1-1. Now, what's been alarming about the series is both the test matches were dominated by the team that they won. There were no moments in which the other team came back. That is something that both teams will be very wary of. The team that gets the upper hand have just gone on and consolidated their performance throughout the test matches. Now, what that tells me is the opportunities for a team to bounce back have been lesser because of how the wicket is played out and how both teams actually have a mental edge on each other. And is that pendulum going to go back and forward as this test series progresses? That is going to be the important and interesting aspect. Yes, we have this carrot dangling called the World Test Championship Final, which as we sit, I don't think both teams are thinking about it. I think they're both keen on winning the test match that is in front of them. And in this case, it's Gabba. In Perth, India dominated. Australia, in Adelaide, Australia dominated. It was but too obvious. But have to say that so far, if you put both test matches together, there's been very little to choose from. At the end of the first test, we thought Australia is going to have it hard. At the end of the second test, we are sitting and thinking, man, India's batting, India's bowling is okay, but Australia look like they know what to do against India. But that could easily change. And, and whenever India and Australia have played in the last few series, both teams have competed really hard. They go neck to neck, they played hard, and it is great to see both teams again doing it. And at the end of two test matches, I'm pretty happy with the scoreline, irrespective of whether I'm an Indian or an Australian.
In fact, both in 18 and in 1, the series went up and down. 1-1, lost one, drawn one, 1-1, one lost, one draw. It went a bit like that. And you're right that teams have just dominated. Just top of my head, there are a couple of numbers that I can recall, DK. From Australia's point of view, of the top six batters that they're playing, in the calendar year 2024, only one averages more than 30. And he got to 30 after the 100 in Adelaide. And that is Travis Head. All the others are under 30, other than Alex Carey, who's 31. So that shows you that there's a huge problem with Australia's batting. India, in the first innings, 7 innings so far, that's 56 innings total with if you look at the top eight batters, 1 century and 16 ducks. So both sides have serious batting issues, even though both sides are filled with so much pedigree. I mean, you look down that Australian side, it's a good batting side. Khwaja, Labuschagne, Smith, Marsh, Head, it's a good batting side. Look down India, it's a good batting side, but it's a strange configuration of events where both batting sides are struggling.
Asha, I think this is a question that I must ask you. I've played the sport for a long time.
Yo,
That is different. But
that is not allowed on this program.
I think the odd question, Asha, because I think you're a lot more knowledgeable than me in this regard. plainly because of what we always speak about. You're older by about 4 decades. So, hence you have to answer this question. Harsha, there's always a generational change, isn't it? We always speak about how, almost every 13 years, there's a generational shift in normal lifestyle. And that always happens in this sport as well, I feel. And probably we are on the cusp of a generational change for both teams, whether you like it or not. You would see a lot of these players in the next 5 years not being around. It'll be a very different team to what it is. And it's happened with the Gavaskar era, and then let's put, Sachin Tendulkar era, and all of that. Slowly, towards the end, you get numbers like these when they've played for a certain amount of time. There's a bit of a lull at times, and they find a way to pick it up before they move on. Do you think it is that time for both these teams, Harsha? Because you're talking about the likes of Steven Smith. Now, he was rated on par with Don Bradman at a stage in terms of how magnificent his numbers were, unparalleled in history for a long time. Today, we are seeing a small sample of that from Harry Brook, and I'm sure in time he's going to go through something very, very similar. And we're talking about Virat Kohli's and in all of these big names that we're talking about here. Do you think we're on the cusp of that in that series, Harsha, as we sit here?
Listen, Abhay, since you're talking about, decades, 4 decades and all, I must talk to you like that. Abhay, listen. I fear so. I fear so. In fact, we were having a little discussion in Fox. I was asking some players who played the game at the very highest level, is there something you see in players, whether it is in their movement, whether they're getting out to balls that they were otherwise hitting? There's a lot of talk about Steve Smith, for example. Is he just slowing down because the balls that he was hitting for four through mid-wicket are now hitting his pads? So is there something that you can see? Is there something about Virat Kohli's fifth and sixth line off stump line batting? Are there indicators that suggest that they're coming, they might be in the last stages? Because the numbers are suggesting a struggle. But, I saw not this extent of struggle, but I saw Tendulkar in 2009, DK. And this way he bounced back. If you see Tendulkar in 2010, 11, 12, 13, he came and hit 10, 12 hundreds, I think, after that. I think because these people are such tough players, because they're tough, they've done so well, that they refuse to accept that they might be coming to the end. So they'll keep on trying. And for me, in the next three test matches, the most fascinating thing, apart from the result, who's going to win the series, is to see these accomplished players, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Steve Smith, even Manas Labuschagne, who's a little younger than them, Usman Khwaja, to see how they react to the situation they're in and come back. But the numbers seem to suggest that there is a potential change of the guard.
And that always happens in sport, as you would know, and there's nothing to fear
11, 12.
about. It's
2011, 12, DK, sorry to interrupt. 2011, 12, India came here. It was Rahul Dravid's last tour of Australia. It was Tendulkar's last tour of Australia. It was VVS Lakshman's last tour of Australia. And you got the feeling at times on that tour that it was one tour too many. I hope we cannot say that till the series is over. I hope we don't have to say that way, because if you don't have to say that way, it means we've seen fantastic batting from Rohit, Virat, Khwaja, and Smith.
And you almost think that for the series to get into a really hot, heated one that lasts over 5 days and doesn't get over in 3 days, the names that you just spoke about need to fire. Otherwise, one of the teams are going to win, and we're going to have a very similar timeline on all the other two test matches as well, because it's just but too obvious. Yes, the pitches are hard, and the pink ball doesn't help. In Perth, there's the bounce we speak about, but I don't think both teams will be okay with the game getting over in 3 days. Yes, the winning team will feel happy, but in general, they'll be like, wow, there is something happening here that batters are not scoring the runs that they should be.
I mean, if it rains like this, that's one way of taking a game into the fifth day. I'm just starting to work on thinking about year-end blogs. This year, and another stat I'm just throwing in passing, maybe I'm just trying to show off that I know the numbers because I read them recently.
This year, there's been one. I don't think anybody is surprised on the show that you know your numbers and the knowledge that this game provides in terms of data.
My numbers are coming from Deepu and Cricbuzz team. I just read them recently. There's been one draw this year. 2 games or 3 have gone into the fifth day. And if you bowl 360 overs in 4 days, as you're supposed to, but which is completely unfashionable to do, then you would not have had a game going into the fifth day. So all the draws have been because of the weather. So there you are, all that's happening. But in the Karthik mansion, we are putting him in the hot spot. What are your thoughts about WTC? Can India still make it? Because all that the media has done, and I'm not even sure the players are thinking about it that much, but in the media, we've talked about it a lot. What needs to happen for India to make the WTC? We are the world leaders in. If this happens, then that happens, then something else happens. We do that in all ICC knockout tournaments. But here's something that's interesting because we are now pretty close. If India win 4-1 or 3-1, then you qualify directly. If India win 3-2, Australia must draw one test at least versus Sri Lanka. I don't think there'll be any draws there unless it rains. Both test matches are in Gaul. They can have two test matches in 5 days, maybe. If, if India draw 2-2, Sri Lanka must win the series against Australia, which is eminently possible. There is a gentleman there called Prabhat Jayasuriya. They will make the wickets for him, and that could have an impact. But these are all the numbers. DK, you follow cricket very closely, I know. What is your instinct telling you about India making the WTC final?
I think this series India is playing right now, even now, I feel Australia have the upper hand, but I still think India has a great chance of drawing it. I really believe that is possible. But in terms of World Test Championship final, I sadly feel as I sit here that India is going to find it very hard. The one thing that India has always done well is control their destiny. When given an opportunity in the last couple of years, they came back from a place where we thought that they couldn't manage it, but then had the momentum of the home series, did what they usually do, control the narrative using the spinners and have the depth of batting, which helped them get the results that they wanted. And they walked into the finals right royally. And I don't think it's going to happen this season.
We'll wait and see. All I will say, and I'm not disagreeing with him because I just think in these conditions, Australia will always, on paper and in little things, will look the better side. India have to outdo themselves to beat Australia, which is why home advantage is what it is. When teams come to India, it's exactly the same. People are writing off Pakistan. If Pakistan snatch a series in South Africa, that'll be very interesting. Don't put it beyond them because there is a lot of turmoil in Pakistan cricket at the moment. When there is turmoil, suddenly they find a path. So if they upset South Africa, then South Africa was sitting pretty at the moment, could struggle. But this series is well placed. I think India will struggle. It will be a fantastic result for India to go through from there onwards. Okay, no cricket today, but there's been some fantastic cricket happening in India, and I want to talk to you, DK, about two players. One, a player that I love watching. I was very disappointed that he didn't get the big runs in the home series when he got a chance in Test cricket. But I look at Rajat Patidar bat, and I think, wow, man, this fellow can bat. I have to be careful saying this kid because you keep referring to that all the time, so I have to be a little careful. But he's playing innings like these at that crucial position at number four, not at one, two, three, but he's playing it at number four. And as one of, dare I say, your players, you must be overjoyed seeing numbers like these.
Couldn't be happier for him. I really hope and wish there are big things in store for him. I see no reason why he can't be part of Team India's T20 team. I know they're doing very well. The one thing that Indian team has lacked a little bit is the ability to take down spinners. We rely quite a bit on Surya Kumar Yadav, but Rajat Patidar is cut from a very special cloth. He's a good player of fast bowling, but my gee, he is phenomenal against spin. Some of the shots that he plays, is just breathtaking. We always speak about people having time and that lazy elegance. He embodies that perfectly, and I couldn't be happier to have a player like him in the team that I am working. So he is one
You
for.
know, people might say, okay, one RCB guy talking about another RCB guy, but there are some players, and you've seen a lot of those, and you've been alongside a lot of those. You see them, and you think this person can do much more. I mean, I see in the teams that I'm seeing here, I'm seeing KL Rahul averaging 34, and I said, no, that's not allowed. He's too good a player for that. I've seen Shubman Gill. I said, no, he can't be averaging mid 30s. But in T20 especially, I look at Rajat Patidar and I say, wow, man, he's got everything. So I'm hoping he does well. I'm hoping he has a very good IPL too, and I'm hoping he does well because I just like the look of him. But there is one of my favorites as well. I just love him as a person, and I like him very much as a player. So I'm not allowing my affection for him as a person to overcome my assessment or my judgment as a player. But I'm enjoying seeing the scores. I don't know if you've seen the games. I'm just seeing the scores here. Ajinkya Rahane is on fire. He batted at four, he got runs. He went opening, he got runs. He's on fire. Look at that. He's striking at 170 and an average of 61 in 7 games. That's something else.
So this game is a very beautiful one, Harsha. It always throws pleasant surprises at you. And I think Ajinkya Rahane is going through that purely because of his work ethics and his attitude towards the sport. He's constantly looked to get better in any format that he's played. Yes, he's not part of the test team anymore, and I'd be very surprised if he makes a comeback. But you listen to his interview, even now that burning desire to be part of Team India is there. But it just tells you his state of mind as well. He wants to do what he wants to do for the team. He's captaining the 4-day format, but is very happy to be playing under Shreyas Iyer. And he says this genuinely. I mean, if you know the person, you'll understand it's not coming from a place where it's made to sound cool in front of the media so that people believe from the outside. It genuinely is true. And I know inside information, Omkar Salvi, the coach of the Mumbai team, is the coach of RCB as well. And he said there haven't been more disciplined leaders like him that he has seen, very rightfully working hard for what he feels, and the players follow him. And he's had a tough season last year, and this season what he's done is great. I mean, it's there for people to see, and he's just been beautiful. But last season in Ranji Trophy, had a poor season, didn't do much with the bat. But the way he spoke at the end of it when he won Ranji Trophy tells you everything about the person. He speaks about how it's important to be resilient in life, how it is important to keep fighting hard, not worrying about results because you love what you do. And those are lessons for young boys and girls to, learn from, mainly because the sport will always throw you challenges, but a lot of people will just move away from it because they're not able to handle the pressures that come along with it, and the ego will come in the way. I mean, being Ajinkya Rahane is an ex-Indian Test captain, and wherever he's gone, a crowd is followed. People have observed him. Today, he's playing in front of no one. When you play a Ranji Trophy match, there are probably five people, two scorers watching you. But still, to go out there, do what you're doing for the team, help the young boys out, and still have the same body language, whether you do well or not, and not bring your ego in the way is, it's just he is one of those cricketers that you can see, follow, and I hope some people in their own team see and follow and learn from the likes of him because he is special. As a cricketer, he's got his limitations as a batter, and he's always done well under pressure. And I can say a lot about him as a batter, but for me, the person that he is, the leader that he's shown to be in the last couple of years for Mumbai, and that is a great learning for a lot of the young boys and girls playing and watching the sport, and in general life as well. The ability to
Yeah.
stay tall during success, but even taller during failures, hoping that you'll always do something for the sport because the sport has given you everything is a great attitude to have, I believe.
I'm glad you said that because I followed your career very closely as well, and you know what it is to be up and down, and the way you came back from where you were to become the kind of player you did in T20 cricket told me a lot about your character too. And I know you keep making fun of my age, and I still keep saying nice things about you, but but I enjoyed that. And the reason I enjoyed what you just said was because you know firsthand what it is to be actually doing that. I hope a lot of young players, India at the moment is not short on talent at all. It's incredible. I was just talking to Justin Langer a day ago, and he was saying when he first came to India, he saw a couple of youngsters and he thought, wow, 50, 60 test matches, this player. He said, then I saw another and I saw another and I saw another. And I thought, where is this talent coming from? This country is it's just blooming everywhere. I would love these young children to pick up uh, someone like Ajinkya Rahane's temperament, his work ethic, his humility. I hope he does well. You always wish good for people. We wish well for Rajat Patidar. We wish well for Ajinkya Rahane. There's going to be a really good final because there's a Venkatesh Iyer there who's also had a couple of good games and he's in the news. Hopefully, he will overcome the reason why he is in the news to remain in the news for the right reasons, which is to score runs. Someday we'll talk about whether he should be KKR captain, but that's another story. You know KKR very well, so we'll get an informed view about it from you. Maybe if it rains tomorrow, that's another topic to talk about. So, right, just a little bit of time left for fast forward. It's likely to be muggy tomorrow as well. What do you foresee happening tomorrow? Because this game is virtually just about started. It's just, what, 13 overs old.
The one thing that was very evident today when we started bowling was we expected a lot more from the pitch, purely because of how the pitch looked, and there wasn't enough swing. And that is slightly scary from an Indian point of view, but we don't know how much the test is going to last and all of that. So let's not get there. But I think the Indian bowlers need to bowl a lot more in the 5 to 7 meter mark. They're trying to be a little more around the 8 meter mark, and those are very pretty looking balls. You know, you'll always get the batter beaten. You'll always feel like, wow, there's a lot happening with the beaten. But the fact is that even if you get driven for a couple of boundaries, to keep the ball slightly further up so that when it seems it gets the outside edge or hits the pad is very, very important. And I feel that's the one shift that they need to make. In Australia, a lot of bowlers who lack experience get carried away with the bounce. It feels good. But the fact is that you want to get that edge or you want to hit the stump. And for that, you need to be slightly fuller, at times brave enough to have the boundary go against your name, but look for that wicket. And I wish that the three fast bowlers do that.
Absolutely. In almost the same words, I heard two Australian openers talk about batting at the Gabba today. One slightly more successful than the other. One was Phil Jakes. I was with him in the radio box for a while, and he said, "You come to the Gabba and you want to play square shots." And David Warner did a little class about what he would like to do at the Gabba. And he said, the bowler should make me drive because I'm very happy playing the cut and the pull. He said, here at the Gabba, you sit there, the ball comes on well. I want to cut. I don't want to be forced to drive. And I think that is what the bowlers need to do. That is the point that he was making today as well. And he's someone who scored quite a few runs. So there you are. That's it. Lots happening. Hopefully, less rain tomorrow. The forecast, look, they believe in the radar here, but the overall forecast was 15 millimeters. I said at the top of the program, it rained 80, 85. Tomorrow, the forecast is intermittent. Day after is not great, but who's to know about forecast? So if there is a full day's game, me and DK will join you on Cricbuzz Chatter and talk about the full day's game. If there isn't, maybe we'll have news for you about the Champions Trophy. At some point, we must get some news about the Champions Trophy. I think it's an open secret about what's going to happen, but we'll wait for that news to come in as well. So till then, on Cricbuzz Chatter, with from DK's mansion and from my that kind of hotel room. See you tomorrow.